Hello, welcome to News Now on TV360. I am Thelma Okoro. Police officials in Anambra and Delta states have clashed with suspected members of the movement for the sovereign state of Biafra Masab. Several persons, including a soldier, were allegedly killed during the clash in Onitsha, Anambra State, southeast Nigeria. Police Public Relations Officer in Anambra State, Ali Okechukwu, confirmed the incidents, which occurred during celebrations to mark the 50th anniversary of the defunct Biafra Republic, but declined to give details about those who lost their lives. The late Chukwuemeka Odumegwu Ojukwu had declared the Republic of Biafra on May 30th, 1966. In Delta State, the clash broke out between policemen and some people suspected to be Masob in Asaba. Biafra, officially the Republic of Biafra, was a secessionist state in eastern Nigeria that existed from the 30th of May 1966 to January 1970. The Socio-Economic Rights and Accountability Project (SERAP) has commenced contempt proceedings against the federal government, Abubakar Malami, and Attorney General of the Federation, as well as the Minister of Justice, Ahmed Idris, and the Accountant General of the Federation. The group had obtained a judgment from a high court in Lagos ordering the federal government to give detailed information on the total amount of recovered stolen public assets that have so far been recovered by Nigeria. SERAP, however, claimed in a statement on Monday by its Executive Director, Adetokunbo Mumuni, that since the judgment was delivered on March 24, 2016 by Justice Mohammed Idris, Malami and Idris had ignored the ruling. It accused Malami and Idris of taking the court for a ride, saying it had since last week commenced contempt proceedings against them by filing a lawsuit at the Federal High Court. Major Hamza Al-Mustafa, who was a former chief security officer to late General Sani Abacha, has denied the late head of state stole money from Nigeria. He was speaking to journalists in Lagos State, southwest Nigeria, on some number of issues relating to his 15 years in detention. He said the major amount of money kept in foreign accounts by the late leader was hidden due to an impending sanction on the country at that time. He said the decision to stash the money in foreign bank accounts was taken by the late General Abacha and some high-ranking officials who are still influential in Nigeria today. Earlier this year, the Swiss government confirmed it had so far returned $723 million, which is about 142.43 billion naira seized from the family of Sani Abacha to the Nigerian government over the last 10 years.
I was highly embarrassed in 1999 when we were taken to, we transferred from Ikoyi prison around November or December. That was when I heard the word Abacha loot. I was embarrassed. I was embarrassed. I was very embarrassed. And I reacted. Why? Where was the money from? What was it for? Who kept the money? How much was the money? And when was this money stashed out? How was it taken out? And remember, Abacha was not always living Nigerian. He traveled at the beginning. Yes, he traveled out to India, to Saudi Arabia, to Pakistan. He went to so many countries at the beginning in 1994. But when he came back, most of his journeys were within African countries. South Africa and many West African states, to Central Africa at one time, and North Africa. These were most of the places he visited. In most cases, he was being represented in the tenuership of General Abacha. For the 4 years, 7 months, he found himself in power. Abacha has had numerous attacks, away from the few that was mentioned. There were collaborations between some notable Nigerians and some international powers to remove him out of office. General Abacha is dead. But those he stepped upon decided to invest by smearing his name. In Nigeria, over the years, decades, there are some people who have grown bigger than the laws of Nigeria, bigger than security agencies of Nigeria, bigger than governments in Nigeria. But during Abacha's tenure, in the course of trying to remove him out of office violently, Abacha had to defend himself, and he allowed the law to take its course. So notable Nigerians were arrested. They were tried. They never take it in good light. They have still not forgiven General Abacha. And I have my reasons for saying not yet. They have not yet forgiven Abacha, even at death. Now, sanctions also were threatened upon Nigeria. And the survivability of the government then, to my knowledge, was a key thing. There was also a decision at one point in time where some stakeholders of Nigeria were invited to Abuja at Brigade of Guards officers' mess, at a mess called Camp Basim officers' mess in Abuja. Traditional rulers, key politicians, key businessmen from the north to the south who sat down to converse. At that time, Chief Tommy Kim was foreign minister. And when sanction was threatened on Nigeria, at the request of some notable Nigerians, some modalities were taken to allow some money go to some accounts abroad, so that when sanction comes, that money will be able to keep Nigeria afloat. At that time, oil was $7, $8. No loan was taken to run Nigeria. Policies were taken, including PTF, so that Nigeria could grow. At one time, from prison, I wrote a note to late General Abacha's family, and I said, in the name of God, don't get cowed down from the pressure and the segregation and the abuses you receive every day. Come to the fore and tell the whole world whatever is in the contents of the money they are talking about as loans. The dates of lodgement of that money will show whether monies were kept in his name before he became head of state, and monies that were kept in his name after he became head of state. That is step one, to do yourself justice. I suggested. Number two is also to give history as to what that money was kept and meant for. There are stakeholders you can go for. I was in detention at that time, but I can remember faces of many, many big men who attended that Abuja Kambasi meeting where this decision was taken. And all these people are there. But then, unfortunately, till this moment, I don't think there was any interview that was presented to these personalities, and there are many.
The Nigerian army says a soldier and 4 other persons, including a mother and her child, have been killed in Biu, Borno State in Nigeria's northeastern region. The incident occurred when a tricycle, popularly known as Keke Napep, accidentally climbed an improvised explosive device planted along Damboa Road, close to a military checkpoint. A statement from the army said the general area was immediately cordoned off and the explosive ordnance device team from the forward operation base mobilized to carry out a further search of the area. Authorities in Niger say they are preparing to carry out an attack against Islamic group Boko Haram. The operation will also involve military forces from neighboring countries. Since February last year, Boko Haram fighters have carried out more than 100 cross-border raids into southern Niger. Niger has been working alongside other countries in the region, including Chad, Cameroon and Nigeria, to put together a joint strategy to end the threat posed by Boko Haram. Earlier this month, Niger's President Mamadou Issoufou said its government has arrested scores of Boko Haram militants and would ensure they are being handed over to the International Criminal Court for trial. The Nigerian army says its troops have prevented militants from blowing up an Ajib oil pipeline in Bayelsa State, southern Nigeria. A statement from the army said the troops encountered the armed militants in 2 speedboats in the early hours on Sunday. The military also said that the suspected vandals opened fire on the patrol team, but the troops responded with overwhelming superior firepower. As a result, the suspected criminals sped off from the area, with many of them sustaining gunshot wounds. The incident comes days after a major crude oil pipeline operated by Italy's ENI was attacked in Nembe, Bayelsa State. New militant group Niger Delta Avengers claimed responsibility for the attack. Now, still on the Niger Delta region, the army says it has arrested 10 suspected militants and pipeline vandals in the restive region. The commander of 4th Brigade Nigerian Army Benin City, Farouk Yahaya, while addressing journalists, said the suspects were arrested during a cordon and search exercise conducted in Okporoza community and its environs in Delta State. Nigeria's crude oil output has fallen to a 22-year low following attacks on pipeline by a group known as the Niger Delta Avengers. The group say they are fighting for a greater share of oil profits and an end to pollution and independence for the southern region. Former Niger Delta militant leader Government Ikpemopolo, also known as Tampolo, has called on new militant group, the Niger Delta Avengers, to give peace a chance in the region. In a letter issued on Sunday, Tampolo urged the group to put an end to all acts of pipeline vandalism. He said such acts won't do the country any good, especially in this critical period of Niger's economic history. Even though he has been suspected to have links with the group, Tampolo has said he knows nothing about the group and its activities in the region. Nigeria's President Muhammad Buhari has described his first year in office as a year of triumph, consolidation, pains and achievements. He was speaking during a live broadcast to celebrate Nigeria's Democracy Day and his first year in office. President Buhari affirmed his administration's belief in democracy as a form of government that best assures the active participation and actual benefit of the people. He said despite many years of hardship and disappointments, Nigerians have proved inherently good, industrious and tolerant as well as patient. He went on to speak about promises made during his campaigning to tackle problems bordering on security, corruption and the Nigerian economy, as well as challenges faced on assuming office and gains made thereafter. President Buhari was sworn in as Nigeria's president on May 29, 2015 after defeating incumbent leader Goodluck Jonathan at the 2015 presidential elections. The Minister of Information and Culture, Lai Mohammed, has explained the reasons behind President Buhari's delay in releasing the details of looted assets recovered from corrupt officials. The president had, in an interview in London, promised to disclose the figure in his Democracy Day address to the nation. However, in his nationwide address to mark his 1 year in office on Sunday, President Buhari failed to disclose the figure as promised. Rather, the president promised Nigerians that the Ministry of Information and Culture would be publishing the details, which he said would be updated periodically. Speaking during a TV broadcast, Lai Mohammed said the presidency couldn't publish the details due to legal reasons. He, however, assured that the presidency would publish the details before the end of the week. The Nigerian Air Force says it has sent off 20 flying officers to the United Kingdom and South Africa for pilot training. Addressing newsmen during the event in Abuja, Chief of Training and Operations, Air Vice Marshal Ahmed Iya, said the training is in line with the vision of the Chief of Air Staff for effective and efficient capacity building. He said 10 of the officers would undergo a 6-month training in UK while the rest are built for South Africa with a duration of 1 year.
There are 20 officers. 10 of them are going to UK and 10 are going to South Africa for complete pilot training. It is in line with the vision of the Chief of Air Staff to build capacity by effective and efficient training for capacity building. Secondly, you know the challenges we are facing in the country, especially in the northeast, and therefore these pilots will eventually come and beef up the aircrew strength we have in the country and therefore contribute positively to the solution in the northeast.
Actually, it's a very rare opportunity for myself as a young flying officer Nigerian Air Force to be nominated for pilot training outside the shores of this country. It's indeed a great privilege, and much is expected from myself and my colleagues, and by the grace of God we hope to do our best to make sure we come back with complete certification of our pilot training.
I'm very happy because it's a very, very rare privilege to be selected to represent the country and train as a qualified pilot. And definitely we are going to do our best by the special grace of God, and we ensure that we come out with flying colors as qualified pilot for the Nigerian Air Force. And I know that by the time we come back as qualified pilots, we are definitely going to be useful to the Nigerian Air Force.
The Military Pensions Board says 10 fake military pensioners were arrested during the recently conducted verification exercise for retirees displaced by the Boko Haram insurgency in the northeast. Chairman of the board, Mohammed Dabo, disclosed this in an interview with newsmen. He said the suspects were arrested at the venue of the exercise held in Yola, Adamawa State recently, with documents of some deceased military pensioners. He added that the suspects had been handed over to the relevant authorities for further investigation and prosecution. Lagos State Governor Akiwumi Ambode said his ascension into office 1 year ago was an assignment from God, just as he vowed to continue to serve humanity selflessly through his tenure and lifetime. In his Democracy Day broadcast message, Governor Ambode said, despite the fact that the global economy is in turmoil and the Nigerian economy is facing huge challenges, Lagos State has continued to march on with confidence and a clear vision. Highlighting some of his plans for the next 1 year, Governor Ambode said that plans are underway to install a fiber optic network around the state to boost broadband access, improve the transportation system, as well as continue the massive infrastructure development ongoing across the state. We'll take a short break now. When we come back, we'll look at business and international stories. Don't go away.
Hello? Yeah, I found your wallet in front of a supermarket. Meet me at Apple Junction. Yes, I'll be waiting for you.
Now we find out. Two of us.
Thank you very much, officer. You know, it's surprising that men like you still exist in the police force.
Yes, so...
Oh, yes.
This is just a token of my appreciation.
Oh, no. You don't need to do this. We're only doing our job.
Thank you very much. God bless you.
You're welcome.
Now I know police is really my friend.
Yes.
Friend. Hey. Okay, which came up with this one? I don't understand.
You know your problem. You are greedy. I'm a policeman who is doing his job. All forms of corruption in the force. Not in my country.
Corruption not in my country.
Welcome back. You're watching TV360 News Now. Nigeria President Muhammad Buhari has again dismissed suggestions to devalue the naira, saying his government is resolved to keep the country's currency steady. Nigeria is Africa's largest economy and its top oil producer, but its public finances have suffered as the price of crude oil dropped around the world. President Buhari had previously rejected calls to devalue the currency of Nigeria, saying that he would not, quote, kill the naira. Speaking during his Democracy Day broadcast, the president reiterated his stance, saying he was still not convinced about the idea of devaluing the currency. He, however, supported CBN's decision to move away from the dollar peg rate. Oil prices dipped on Monday as a strong dollar weighed on market supply. U.S. crude futures were trading at $49.22 per barrel, while Brent futures were at $49.10 per barrel. In global oil market, Brent prices have been supported by a series of supply disruptions in Nigeria, where militants have been staging a wave of attacks on oil pipelines, cutting the country's output to the lowest in more than 2 decades. Attention will also be on a meeting by OPEC in Vienna this week, although most analysts do not expect any decisions would lead to changes in production. 5 UN peacekeepers were killed and 1 other seriously injured in an ambush in central Mali on Sunday, the UN has confirmed. The UN Multidimensional Integrated Stabilization Mission in Mali, also known as MINUSMA, said the attack took place near Savari town. The nationalities of the soldiers were not released by UN, and so far, no group has taken responsibility for the attack. Chad's ex-ruler Hissène Habré has been convicted of crimes against humanity and sentenced to life in prison at a landmark trial in Senegal. The judge convicted him of rape, sexual slavery, and ordering killings during his rule from 1982 to 1990. This will be the first time an African Union-backed court will try a former ruler for human rights abuses. Throughout the trial, Haber refused to recognize the court's legitimacy, frequently disrupting proceedings. The ex-president denied accusations that he ordered the killing of about 40,000 people during his rule from 1982 to 1990. Moving on to sports now, Nigeria's Minister of Youth and Sports Development, Solomon Dalong, has said his ministry remains committed towards reviving sporting activities in the country's military. The minister was represented by the Director of Grassroots Development in his ministry, Ademola Are, at the annual 10-kilometer walk jog fitness exercise organized by the Nigerian Air Force in Abuja, the nation's capital. He maintained that the revival is aimed at discovering more men and women who will win laurels for the nation, insisting that the merits of sporting activities cannot be overemphasized.
You could see the source of happiness on the faces of the officers and men that took part in this exercise today. Apart from the fact that in the past, Nigeria has really enjoyed podium success as international sports meets from the military and paramilitary agencies, it is evident in what we saw today that with this level of preparedness, Nigeria can hope for better activities, better performances in international sports meets, and also in the protection of our lives and properties of Nigerians. If you are not physically fit, you can't even do 1 kilometer walking, not to talk of jogging. So for the Chief of Air Staff to lead his men and his officers and men on this, it shows the level of preparedness. And this is not the only physical activities they are doing. It is a weekly thing for them. So this is just more or less a ceremonial for the Oga to be with the children, you understand, to motivate them to do well, to keep on doing what they are doing. So they are very fit, I'm sure they are physically ready, and you can see that it is not only this place, in all commands, the Chief of Air Staff commissioned gyms, you know, for them to be physically fit. It's a daily thing. For you to be part of this group, you must be physically fit. So there's no doubt about it.
Nigeria's under-17 women's team, the Flamingos, have been drawn in a relatively tough group against Brazil, England and Korea in Group C. The 2016 Under-17 Women's World Cup is built to hold in Jordan. The draw took place at the Al Hussein Cultural Center in downtown Amman and was overseen by His Highness Prince Ali bin Hussein, who is the president of the Jordanian Football Association. The Flamingos will be appearing in their 4th Under-17 Women's World Cup after making their debut in the maiden edition in New Zealand in 2008. The Super Eagles of Nigeria on Monday arrived the city of Luxembourg ahead of their Tuesday friendly match against the country's senior national team. The team made the short trip to Luxembourg City from Rouen, France, where they defeated Mali 1-0. Nigeria is using the test games to prepare for the 2018 FIFA World Cup qualifiers that starts in a few months' time. Well, that's all we have on News Now. We thank you very much for watching. I am Thelma Okoro.